Let's talk about something exciting, taxes. Yeah, just kidding. But we're going to talk about the adoption tax credit. Hi, I'm Stephanie A. from All About Adoption, and I'm the adoption lady. And I'm just going to go over some highlights of the adoption tax credit. Now, I want to preface this. I am not a tax accountant. So you will want to refer to your tax accountant who is familiar with the adoption tax credit. That's key. They need to be familiar with the adoption tax credit to get all your questions answered. So let's talk about what the adoption tax credit is. For any taxpayer who adopts a child can qualify for the adoption tax credit. Now that includes any kind of adoption that you do. So whether that's domestic, whether that's international, whether that's from foster care, it's whatever adoption you do qualify for the adoption tax credit. Now, the caveat to that is that the tax credit does phase out when a family gets to a certain level of income. And it starts a little bit after $200,000 and pretty much caps out at $250,000. So as long as you are like the majority of the families, we are well underneath the $200,000 category. So therefore, we do qualify for the federal adoption tax credits. So the adoption tax credit covers any out-of-pocket expenses that you have for the adoption. So things that are typically covered are going to be your adoption fees, your attorney fees, any court costs that you have, and any travel expenses that you have to complete your adoption process. So the tax credit really just, it relates to what you've spent on your adoption. So if you spent, for example, currently as I'm recording this, the adoption tax credit is a little over $14,000. So if you've spent $16,000 on your adoption, you can claim up to $14,000 plus dollars. If you spent $8,000, then you can claim $8,000. So it's relative to what you spend on adoption expenses that qualify for the adoption tax credit. The adoption tax credit, the reason why I don't know the exact number to the adoption tax credit and the reason why I'm giving you just kind of guesstimate or a rough number is because it does increase each year with inflation. So it is changing each year. So the adoption tax credit is per child. So let's say you are lucky and are wanting to adopt twins and you adopt twins, you do get the tax credit for each child. So it's not per adoption, it's per child that you adopt that you qualify for the adoption tax credit. Something that's not commonly known about the tax credit is that it's good for a successful adoption and a failed adoption. So if you do have a failed adoption, then you do qualify for those expenses that you lost in pursuing that particular adoption process that ended up not finalizing in an adoption. So you can claim the adoption tax credit once you finalize your adoption. That's for a successful adoption. So you cannot claim it before your adoption is finalized. So typically, let's say, for example, if you finalize your adoption in 2020, then you can do when you file for your taxes for 2021. So it's the year that you finalize your adoption that you're able to pursue the adoption tax credit on the next tax season. So the tax credit is applied towards what you owe in taxes. Now, I think it's important that you meet with an you meet with a tax accountant who is familiar with adoption, so that way if you need to make any adjustments on what you owe, you can make those as you begin the adoption process. You can spread your expenses, or you can spread the tax credit out over 5 years. So let's say you don't owe very many taxes the first year. It does roll over for a total of 5 years. You can have to claim all of your expenses on the tax credit. Right now, as I'm recording this, there is a push to have the tax credit fully refundable. It was fully refundable for a period of time. We are very lucky and very blessed that we finalized the adoption of our daughter during the time that it was fully refundable. And so the push is for that to come back so that more families can take advantage of the tax credit. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.